Hello, viewers, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Afro Gamer podcast. Today, we have guests in our midst, and it's a continued series of the Africa Comicade. And today, we'll be discussing game development in Africa in terms of collaborations, monetizations, and publishing. Today, we do have Shea with us, and we have Boss Man. I will allow them to, in turns, introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what they do.
Bossman,
So
you want to go first?
okay, my company name is Gosaman. I chose Gosaman because I wanted something Nigerian. Gosa like an impact. Gosa Yoruba inspired by Lagos and sounds. So people call me boss man. I'm not a boss yet. It's just what name sounds like. So my name is Uchenna Okia. I'm a game designer. I have been doing this for over 8 years. I'm not sure when I started, but I've always wanted to make digital products and I've always loved art growing up. I'm a computer science graduate. I learned everything else I do online on YouTube. Thank God for that. And I love African narratives, and I've been looking for ways to share them ever since I was a kid. So I stumbled on to game design, and I've never stopped learning ever since. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Oluseyi Shode Johnson. I'm an innovation and business development expert, which basically just means that I think for other people. Maybe I try to solve problems, and I'm sort of like a taxi driver. I take people from, the start of their idea to maybe a bit further down towards what it should be. I work within the telecom space. I work within gaming, TMT in general, right? So that's technology, media, and telecoms. I'm super interested in how people adopt consumer-facing internet technologies, and this on the African continent includes gaming. So I was a former executive at Malio Games. I'm one of the most well-known gaming companies out of Nigeria. I regularly work with and consult for gaming companies like Bestman Games and many others across Africa. I'm an avid believer in the power of gaming to really transform the way that people see Africa, right? So if you see a snow cap in a game, and you've never seen it before as an African kid, right? Just because you see it in a game and you interact with it, you now know what that is, right? So I believe that gaming is the strongest platform to really shape or reshape the way that the rest of the world interacts with African themes, right? Through the things they play and touch within gaming. So I want to help with that.
It's- Thank you very much for the humble introductions of yourself. I know you wear more hats than that, but thank you very much. Let's jump straight into it. What is the situation of game development in Nigeria and Africa as a whole? Busaman.
I think Shea should take that first.
Yeah, I think you should take it, but let me take a stab at it. I think it's more hopeful than ever before. Sometimes you have to have people go before you and build a foundation before the true success comes, right? So um and again, because I'm like an ecosystem builder, right? As you said, wearing many different hats, I pull from different industries, so forgive me, apart from just gaming. If you look at e-commerce, right, you had the Jumias and the Kongas who came, and all of a sudden we were all like, wow, these are these are really going to work. And then it didn't, right? But then now you're seeing a resurgence that I think is really going to be the solid foundation that we need to now go forward. I mean, mostly because of COVID, but with gaming, you know, about 10 years ago, about 8 years ago, I think Malio Games came on the scene. I started that with Hugo, and then you had Kaluya Games, you had Chop Up, you had Game Soul. You had some really great companies like sort of Catch the Bug, right? At that time, sadly, a lot of those companies aren't around. Even the guys who did really, really well, right? I had really high hopes for them, and there's been a lot of pivoting along the way to try to solve problems that need to be solved first. So what I would say is the state of the gaming ecosystem in Nigeria is the foundation is being built right now that allow both the old companies and the new players who no one has heard before fly. So the runway is being built for that, and they're going to fly very, very high. Gaming is a huge, huge opportunity globally, right? Almost three times what Hollywood and the music industry is, and it's the same thing for Africa, right? And we're just building that infrastructure that's needed to make that happen.
Mm, okay. Busama.
Yeah, so well, he said it all. And luckily, before we were discussing former like a few minutes ago, and a lot of what you said reminded me of what we were discussing. How I said, pivoting, for example. After a while, we had to actually start looking for how to make money and let passion go down a little bit. As game developers in Africa, I started at the same time, um, around okay, say a few years after Malio came out and Kulia came out and Malio came out, and I really wanted to work for those two guys. But I would approach them and they were still using web-based engines, and I was still using the wrong technology. I was on Unity back then. Made me not hireable at the time, and it pained me a lot. So I ended up going to make my own game. But after like 4 years of trying to make my own game, I realized I wasn't making money. I didn't have the whole business figured out. So I had to pivot to what would make me money. And that was the state of other developers in Africa. A lot of people pivoted to taking programming jobs, design jobs, anything that pays the bill. And surviving kind of takes a toll after a time. You actually have to let your passion go. And the only way, like you being that's the first point you made. Second one, saying by saying the wrong way is being built, is after I realized I might not have time to make these games anymore like I wanted to, and I started saying, okay, how can I contribute? Because I know the old generation that had to stop and go and do something else, might not have time to do this stuff again. But the kids coming behind us, all the experience we gathered, are we going to pass it on? So I started taking classes. So for the past 4 years, I've been teaching teens, kids, how to make games, Unity, web-based programming, graphics, because they are the ones that have the chance now to do what we couldn't do. They have access to technology, information, and better tools, better computers than we had. During our time, we had access to Pentium systems, not i7 nowadays. Now there's even i9. And these kids have these laptops right now in their phone. They have good phones.
I we're
They
not
have
that old now.
yeah, but like I'm saying that like right now we are
It's
now in a
true.
place where we can manage the system for them now. We're the ones that will guide them, but we can't say we're trying to break the record of making games anymore. They are the ones that we should let them do. We have the not technical know-how, we have the expertise, we have the experience, and we can bring that to the table for them. We can bring that by managing them, telling them what to do. But I think it's time we leave it for. I've left it for next generation. Actually, I'm building my last game. Like I said, I'm building one last game, and I'm leaving it for the kids to
So so
now
so can I
make the impact they
can,
really
can
need.
I
Yeah,
can I ask can I ask
yeah.
because I've not been a game developer, right? I
Okay,
did computer science, and I was able to like jump into some of the game development when I needed to, right? With my Leo games, but I'm
yeah.
more on the, I guess, visionary or the game design type, Shirigo Miyamoto type. That's my, I'm trying to be, come up with the concepts that really get people excited. That's really where I get excited. Um, but as game developers, right, the story you just shared is literally one I've heard so many times, right? There developers like you who I respect because of the amount of time that you guys have put into it, the ability to build on your own for some time and say, you know what, it's passion, right? I'm going to build something for the creative, for just for the sake of creativity, right? Something better than I can see out there. And I'll admit, some of the stuff we're building at the beginning with Malio, obviously because you're a new company, bootstrapped, you're using your own money, you don't have enough, to start. You want to show as much quality with what you have at the beginning,
Yeah.
and then start building the really good stuff. And that was one of the things that I always thought, you know what, can we build better games than these? But we did what was needed at the time. um I just want to ask, right? I mean, how do we get, I don't think it has to be your last game, but then I'm talking to someone who hasn't spent this long trying to build, like, from that angle of development and being frustrated, right?
Mhm.
What would you say you would want to see that would make you say, you know what, even if I'm bringing up the next generation, I'm still going to stay in the game? I don't know how to say that, but do you see what I'm saying? Because I've heard
Yeah.
what you just said from several people. I'm just like, no, no, no. You know, it doesn't have to be
Okay.
an either or.
Okay. So like like passion won't let you sleep. I would never stop being a game developer or game designer in my heart. I know that one for sure. But um, I realized that like I need to make money. If this game I
Yep,
make,
yep,
if
yep.
this game I make, if this game I make makes money, maybe I'll become a game developer again. I don't know. What I'm saying is
Mm,
I'm just trying to show one last capacity that Africa can do this, and then now I inspire the next generation because I've seen kids like when I started doing amazing stuff, I was in my late 20s. I picked up very slow when it comes to what I wanted to do. But now I see 17-year-old kids doing miracles with laptops. Like I'm like, where am I going to like seven? There's this boy, his name is Dan Folu on Facebook. His 3D modeling is like he studied at the highest visual art school in America. And he just learned at home. He's not even 20 yet. So I rather focus on pushing those kids to where they can, like I might have a company tomorrow that pays salary for them to make games. But I will never be this game developer that comes to be in front and say, oh, I'm a game developer, I made this game. No, it will be like a team effort. It will be some kid that was pushed by my own, maybe by my company,
Yep,
show them,
yep,
guide them
yep.
through. But not that I'm not saying I will lead the industry. I just won't be a game developer anymore, like me sitting down and making games. I'll
Okay,
guide them
okay.
through, I'll be there to support, but I can show them one or two, teach, but I don't think I'll be making any games if it doesn't make me money. Because
Okay, and again, right? Being in the industry doesn't mean that you have to be the game developer, right? So I'm
True.
sure
exactly.
Shiriku Miyamoto, or some of the guys who make some of the games that we know, right? They're far removed from the actual development, but then all of that knowledge of how to make good games are what they use to now,
Exactly.
hire the right people, build the right things. Yeah, okay, cool.
Mm.
That's very cool to know.
Yeah, and one more stuff. Why I won't take a back seat is that I've said beauty. I realized that what was missing was pipelines. Like during our time, if you want to make an African game right now, at least 2 years ago, you have to get African assets, and you don't have the money to pay 3D modelers. So it's expensive. But if a small indie company wants to make a game abroad for Japanese mythology or Greek mythology, he has assets online. He can go to Quicksell and pay for assets. Nobody's making African assets. Nobody's capturing African assets. So I decided to open a company that does that. So my
Mm.
attention is being divided to many other things where I want to be supporting. Like if I'm not creating the assets that they can resource from 3D scanning and then provide them that's fine too for me. I can live with that. But we need that pipeline down for them. What the things we didn't have during our time is what I'm trying to create for the next generation. The knowledge and free access or easy access or cheap, affordable access to assets that will make them be proper indies. Look in Nigeria with the indies in Nigeria, you're still bootstrapping heavily, spending a lot of money to buy assets that don't even fit the African context you're trying to build games for. So you end up building games for foreign company for end up being white games and white games or Asian games anymore. You're making an African game and your character is fighting karate because those are the only motions you can find online affordable.
So there's no
But
Gidigbo.
meanwhile, yeah, there's no getting both. So, but meanwhile, there are companies like Commotion Studios that have motion capture files. I've tried to approach them and say, you know what, let's get your files online. Let's sell these files for affordable prices, not this expensive price you're trying to get people to pay 40 million. Just pay 500 naira, 1,000 naira, 3,000 naira. People can afford these. But we're talking about crowd population here, not just Nigerians, but outside the country. People that want African motions that they can buy without having to come down to Africa and capture motion from people. Why don't you do that? But he's not saying that. So I'm trying to build that for the next generation. And
Next
that will
generation.
require me to leave and that will require me to leave making game development for a while, for a very long time actually. And But because of that knowledge I have, I know what I'm building for. I know what I'm fighting for this time. I'm fighting for game developers. That's my mission now. To just make sure they have a proper pipeline for them that's affordable for them to bring out their ideas and get sponsorship. Because if your
Mm,
idea is not, if your MVP is not working, nobody knows what you're talking about.
mm,
So
mm.
that's where
Okay,
I'm going with creating game after my last game.
quite interesting. Let me read a few comments. Wendy said, "Yeah, it is inspiring to see younger people doing great things in the industry." And Eyo said, interesting topics, very apt for our time. I agree with that. It's about time we discuss all these things. Wendy said, true. Olusha, there are so many ways you can contribute to the industry without necessarily being part of the game development. So back to the question of game development and collaborations. I personally have noticed, I might be wrong, and you guys can correct me, is there's a disconnect when you talk about collaborations between the game developers or the creatives and the end users being the gamers. The gamers are still stuck on, you know, the Western world games. There's no problem with that. But if you pull out 10 kids now who play games either on their console, PC, or their mobile, and you start to say, okay, have you played or have you heard of a game made in Nigeria? Probably one or two would say, I think I saw it on my timeline, and that's it. So, what is wrong? Where is that disconnect coming from? Is it that game developers or the creatives are not pushing it within the African community or the Nigerian community, or what is this? What is the issue?
Should
Um,
I go first? Okay,
I
or
would, I would,
should I take that?
yeah. Okay, let me just quickly. So I mean, there's many things, right, that are wrong with just the gaming industry, in Nigeria and Africa as a whole, and I would say part of it is just the difficulty of doing business in Africa or Nigeria in general. It's tough, right, for entrepreneurs, right? Um, but I would say that there's systemic barriers that have really stopped African games, right, getting out there. Um, Obviously, there's the twin problems of monetization and distribution, right? But distribution is the biggest one, right? How do you get your games in front of as many people, right, as a bootstrapped or maybe even one person type startup, right? Who's made a great game, Shango, or some game that's like Aboki Run or something like that, right? Local flavor, right?
Mhm.
How do you get that in front of as many people as possible? I don't think it's a problem of people not being able to appreciate African culture or African themes and think, oh, the American or Asian themes are better. No. Usually what happens when you localize content, right, is that people then ditch the international content because well, actually, they ditch it only if it's of very high quality. So years ago, you would go clubbing and you'd hear 90% of the music is Jay-Z, Nas, and all these other, international acts, right? But then literally go to a club now. I mean, I don't go clubbing, but if you go to a club now, right, you would find that, you know, probably 99% of it is Nigerian or African
Oh,
music. And if you
African music,
dare,
yeah.
or if you dare play,
Yeah,
10 minutes of just international music, people are walking out, right? Because the music is on the level of all the international music, right, that you hear out there, but it's your own language. It's your own, themes, the things that affect your life. Someone singing that and rapping that back to you, right? That's incredibly powerful. And that's what localized gaming can do, right? But the issue of distribution, getting that word out there, and then the even more important issue of games of the same standard, right? I think that is the deeper issue that we really haven't tackled. That is a talent problem. That is an education problem. Um, and that's a resources problem, right? Because you could have the skill sets yourself, right, to build parts of the game, but you need a good sound engineer, you need a good animator, you need a good, there are other skill sets apart from that go into building a complete game. I don't care if you're an African developer, right? Okay, great, good for you, but literally next to your app is Candy Crush or Battle Royale or more polished games that I can spend my time on, right? So there's no pity because we're African developers. No one's going to give you that pity. We just have to climb the hill higher towards better created games, and I think that's where Africa Comicad, right, really comes in, right? Because it's about connecting all of those skill sets beyond geographical boundaries. If you can't find the skill sets in Nigeria, why not connect to Kenya, where you might get an artist, right, who can then build the kind of characters and expressiveness that you need to go with your programming, or the kind of sound in South Africa, whatever it is, putting that together to build great games that can get on the platforms that you need to then get distribution. Because you have people like I think Game Loft, right? You have Humble Games, you have all these platforms that can then get you much further, right? But then they need your games to be of quality enough that people would that it would reflect on good on their brand, right? And a lot of games don't get on that. Gameloft is notorious for having incredibly high standards, and they speak about how many games they've tried to put from the African space, and not many have made it, right? So these are the things that really stop visibility of some of the great content that potentially can come out of the continent.
Mm. Thank you very much for that, Olushe. You've mentioned so many things, and everything is circled back to improving your game, but it still comes. The question still arises when you talk about that is if you are like a single developer and you are bootstrapping, how do you step up your game with that? If you're having to do your 9 to 5 and your night or Batman job is your game development and you don't have that resources, I think how what would be your advice to game developers in that scenario? Because I'm sure some will watch and be like, hey, your examples you're giving, I don't have that kind of money. So what's the workaround?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is community, right? Um, there are indie developers out there across the world who have hit massive success. They built a game by themselves. Maybe some of them worked in gaming companies before, right? And then they then put it onto. It gets so much success that it gets on a PlayStation. It gets on, and they were just a one man, right? So what I would say is, first of all, your networks, build your networks and your community. There are people like you out there who want to collaborate, right? There are sound guys out there who want to collaborate. And then the second thing is the resources you need a lot of times are actually out there. So there's free repositories of sound, of audio, of maybe even gaming assets, right? When it comes to animated coins or sound, there's things out there, right? That, and some of them might need you to pay maybe $5 or $2 or $1. I would say, go ahead, right? Because these are very high content assets that could help you just elevate your game just a bit higher, right? And then the third thing I would say is register for the Gameathon coming up, right? The Africa Comunicad Gameathon that really starts, I believe, next Monday, right? So there's going to be a week of lots of experts, global experts, speaking about how to create proper games, right? So glean from that, and then join, register, build your team. If you can, build outside of your location, and then just get ready for the weekend of gaming. But the most important thing you want to take away from this is build your networks, right? You might meet that artist that you then collaborate with 2 months from now. You might meet that programmer as an artist that you then work with on something, right? And then sometimes you might not have the vision, right? You might not have the idea. You might find people in this community who have ideas but don't have the creativity like you. So be open. That would be what I would say, networks and community building. Um, Use assets out there that are free and some that are maybe cheap. And then the third one is be part of this community that Africa Communicat and others are building. Malio is doing this, is building an education piece as well. There's more community that's being built, to really connect people and also increase the skill sets, right? So don't stop learning, keep building, and you'll hit it.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me read a few other comments. Okay, so Ayo said, having come this far, the only way forward for the older generation of gaming industry practitioners is to come together, aka collaboration, and intentionally alter the landscape, not working in silos. And he also said, let's learn from Nollywood. Local content, local talent, harness local capacities, what works for Africa. And just to buttress what Shea said, Belarus said there are people, those are the talents. You mentioned, she said voice overs, copywriters, and the conversation continues. Ayo said, where is the African market online for these talents? The African gaming community said we can create a marketplace. Belarus said there may not be the marketplace just yet, but silos communities exist. Bosaman, this question is to you. The gaming
Okay.
industry, not just like Share has addressed, but even the gamers, the tournament organizers, the whole ecosystem, you have a lot of people working on their own. And how do I put it now? That is a major problem because if we're preaching collaboration, there's that disconnect. Everybody wants to do their own thing, or there's this mindset of, I want to be the first person to be, known for this. How can we break that barrier? Because I'm sure even on the game development side, on the creative side, also there's also that issue of, I want to make it on my own so that I'll be the first to that whole mindset of I want to be recognized first. How
Okay.
how how, how do you think the industry, the ecosystem as a whole can, break that barrier?
Mm. Well, it's a mindset thing. I've realized. You mentioned a few things how people want to be the first, and then because I think I'm beginning to see that because there's no school, there was no school for these things we learned. There's some things that don't come with, like after we know how to, like programmers, a good programmer, a good designer. Of course, you didn't go to school for this stuff. There's this rough way you handle stuff. A lot of people have been burned. They've been burned so many times. They claim they went to companies and then this company used them and dumped them, so they're not going to collaborate with anybody else. Some people collaborate and they're looking for who will be the leader. I mean, am I going to work for you? How many years of experience do you have? You're just a programmer. There's this issue. There's a lot of politics in how Nigerians approach issues, and they bring it to creativity. Creativity and politics don't go together. Yeah, I've met the most humble people in the creative industry. They might have they might know seven programming languages, they might know all the software, but you don't know until you talk to them. And that has impacted me. But you find them in Nigeria here, they just know two softwares and they won't allow you to talk anymore. So I think the issue with collaboration is still far from us because we have this who's going to lead us. And if you don't have the money to drive that conversation, just take a chill, take a chill pill, excuse me. So luckily for us, new generation has been raised in a way where collaboration, networking is just the normal way of life. From social media to Facebook, you show your work, I see your work online. You see my work online. I think we can talk now. We didn't have that back in the day, so it was harder to make a conversation. If you're going anywhere, you had a CD with you to show your demo of your work. That has been so. And creative people like to you show them before you talk. If you don't see your work, you can't. If you're going to a game company now, a game creation company, and then you meet him and you say, "I want to work for you," and he can't check your portfolio to see something good online. He doesn't know if he should hire you or not because first of all, there's no money in this space, and the small money he has to put into this business, he doesn't want to waste it on somebody that's just coming to pose in the space. That is there, and this connection is so is so ingrained in us. The fear of failing is so, and that's one more thing I learned when I went to a few years ago. I got accepted into MEST in Ghana. I spent 1 year at MEST, and I learned so many things. Why Africans from small they raise us to fear failure. And if you're doing a startup, failure is one of the things you have to embrace.
You have to
Fail
embrace,
quickly,
correct.
fail fast, and then change, learn, iterate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all this. So we didn't learn them in school. I learned them in my late 20s after I had been so afraid of trying anything out. You know, and that's why when Shay talks, you can hear him. You know, I don't feel like I feel he understands this thing from he understood it way before we even got what we're talking about this thing about this space. That's why he's going to be like management level for a long time for all of us. You know, he understands this deeply. It is second nature for Shay, someone like Shay, to understand that like failure is not the problem. Let's try this. Let's make a mistake, but let's learn fast. But in Nigeria, you don't dare fail. It's like you have only one chance. You make a mistake and you're dead. Everybody condemns you. Nobody wants to try your product anymore.
I
So
think
that's
it's
the
a
issue
culture.
with
I think it's a culture and background thing.
yeah, yeah. So that thing is so ingrained in us. So nobody wants to try with you because you might just fail and then he will lose. He will back to square one. What if you fail? You're thinking about what if this thing fails? So pay me money. I know I have something from you because I don't want to try with you and then we fail after 4 years and I'm just stuck somewhere. That's one of the issues about collaboration. I've realized most developers are very open-hearted kind of people, but that fear of you might just fail is at the back of their mind. And if you fail, it's only one chance. They feel like they have only one chance. They can't learn. They don't think nobody wants to take the learnings of a mistake and say next time I will try, but I'll be better this time. So when you're approaching somebody and collaboration is hard, don't take it personal. Just understand that the system is designed for them to be afraid of failure, and you might just fail, which is natural for any startup. Anything will you try will fail, and if it fails, what are you going to do? What is your safety net? What is his safety net? What is that person you're going to meet? What is his safety net? So I don't subscribe to that aspect of failure. Thank God because of mess. I broke away from that stuff years ago. But I still see a lot of people still trapped in that mentality that anything I'm trying with you, if I'm not getting paid for it, what if you fail? What am I going to do? You know, so that is the issue why collaboration is going to be hard for us. And to address the marketplace issue about Nigeria, to show how bad collaboration is so scary for Nigerians right now. I opened a marketplace last year where 3D artists, Nigerians can just put up their files and then sell to Nigerians. You can buy in Naira, don't need for
Mm-hmm.
credit. If you have a credit card, you can use text, you know, whatever, all the means of African paying network. And I went around begging people to put files. I went to companies to beg for motion capture files. I spent a year begging people to get the files on this platform. And the only one thing one person said to me was that, do you know what they're thinking? They're thinking, so wait, if this thing blows up, you take all the glory. And I thought about it was true. It was true. If this platform explodes, I'll be the first in Africa to do such a thing, and then it will be all me. You get, and that's what they were all saying. Instead, people to say trying to open theirs. I'm not mad at people trying to. I'm just worried about this. Our fear for failing, or our fear for being the second best, and somebody else uses you to make money, is what's holding us back. Like there's this fear in a Nigerian person, African person. If you go
Shay
to
is putting his hand on his chin and he's wondering.
yeah, I'm telling you, the platform is still up. You can check it, digitalthingshot.com. I had to take it down. Now I'm revamping it to where I'm just the sole uploader. I'll go and scan files and upload myself, then people can buy for global markets instead. So those,
Can we? Yeah. I'd love to collaborate with you on that, and I underline collaborate, um, because I have to say, it's a human thing beyond even just an African and Black thing. Because for some reason, I'm starting to see it's prevalent with Black people, even in America. With Black Lives Matter, all these kind of things, all these things are coming to the surface. How we don't support each other, how because we
yeah,
have a scarcity mentality where maybe in a room of 20 people, it's like that one Black person who's allowed to be there. So all of us must fight for that one place,
That
right?
one place, yeah.
Opposed to
mm-hmm.
an abundance mentality where it's like, oh, okay, come up the ladder as well. Okay, yeah, there's room for all of us, right? That's generally not how we think. And then we have a godfatherism type way that we've done a lot of our businesses where you get to the top and you have to secure that top against other people coming. So there's many kinds of mindsets, and it's all about mindsets. It's not even about the ideas and the business. It's all about mindsets to be able to crack it globally, right, for any
Yeah,
industry. So I would have to say that I had that mentality once, right? And it takes God just to be like, dude, look at yourself. You're like, are you going to share, 100% of nothing, right? Or are you going to share, 10% or 1% of a billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And I'm still working on it, man. Man's be selfish sometimes. I have to be honest. So when you speak about, that key barrier to us collaborating as Nigerians. I would say it's an African and a black thing, right? From a mentality that needs to change. So, I take the Bible's mentality where if you want to be the greatest, you have to be the servant. So
Seven.
it's like, wait, that's weird. I have to be at the back to be at the front, right? And it's not the way we think as human beings, right? So,
Yeah.
in fact, maybe, I mean, there's For Loop is one of the foremost and the fastest grown um, um, uh, software development communities in Africa, right? They grew really fast. And God, I can't remember the name of the founder. But what he did was that he said, "This is not my thing," right? Whoever wants to start their own version of For Loop in Kaduna, in Uyo, in Ibadan, and whatever, right? Go ahead, right? We'll just give you the resources, right? All I care about is the standards that we keep, right? I'm not holding you and saying you're now my employee or you must report back to me. Make it what you want for your community. And then all of a sudden, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, people started reaching out and saying, we want to open up For Loop communities. And all the
Okay.
resources would come to For Loop down to them. But that different, distancing himself from being that centralized, it's my thing, not many people would even know he's the founder, right? So
Okay.
maybe we have to actually take a back. We will become the Mark Zuckerbergs that everybody would know. But for us to get there, we might have to, on this one, take a back seat, let the community grow, and trust me, it will come back to
Okay.
you somehow. Where
Yeah.
other people will come back and say, no, no, you have to be at the front on this one,
On
right?
this one, yeah.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
just to add to what Shea said, I believe it's a black thing. I had that mindset too, and someone told me, if you want to go fast, you run alone. If you want to go far, you go with others. And thinking about that, that changed everything for me.
Mhm.
If you are running, if you think, okay, I want to be the first person, I want to be this, you probably go to some point. Don't forget that there are other racers looking at the mistakes you are making, and they will build up on that. Just like the
Yeah.
example you used about MySpace, High Five, and how Facebook just came. It's the same process. Once you go fast, you might be dashing off from the starting line faster than everyone, and they're looking, okay, fine, he took off like this, and they're already taking notes, and you will not go far. There is no how
Exactly.
running solo will make you go far. So whatever industry we are, whatever part of the ecosystem we are, collaborations is a must. I'm
Yeah.
not, and that's what Busaman and I were talking about before you joined us. I'm not interested in being the front person to speak. I'm not. I personally am not. Let's do the work. Let's build the community. Let's build the industry. That is what it is for me. So I think a lot of people have to, I think, unlearn and relearn
Exactly.
for for
Yeah.
for for
That's
for, for
that's why that's why
go
I
ahead.
said that's why I say I focus more on teaching the kids now for the past 4 5 years, because I feel like I can reach them and let them know that, look, this is, we've been here. Like, you think I'm this good? Nobody knows my name because of how we did things in our time. I think these young kids, you have a better time. And if they got to start class early together, they don't have access to learn, have these bad experiences that scar them in a way they can't now collaborate in the future. So they've started so early, started so young, selling this part, and they're collaborating so easy. Four of the kids I taught, three of them formed the company. Small children. They formed the company, said to make games, and they sent to me. So that mindset from childhood, if we had that from small kids, if I formed a game company with a kid when I was like from 12-year-old with my mate, maybe we won't have had the bad experiences. We'll be shielded from, like, within ourselves. We'll still have believe in ourselves against the world. Even if people will hurt us, it will just be they hurt our group, not just me alone. And I'm not fighting for only myself. We'll be fighting for as a group. So that's why I focus more on teaching the kids about game development now, gamification, collaboration, graphics. The Like you said, Shay mentioned resources online, free resources. I point them to where it is now. I don't want them to spend their time searching, asking questions on YouTube. I show them exactly where it is, so that you help them get there faster than we did, and then they get to make mistakes quick, faster than we did, learn faster than we did, and then
Faster.
by the time they're 20 years old, they're probably making the impact we wanted to make when we're 20 years old back at that, and we're proud of them. Like I said, I'm willing to take the back step and just be behind and just teach the next generation. Even if I
Mm.
make a game right now, I'm not going to be. all over the news about it. Like I was telling you earlier, I said if I make a game that hits world stage right now, I'm old enough to make a game right now. I have the experience. It's not to celebrate anymore. Like I'm old enough to make a game that should be making waves right now. But I just want the kids. I want to see a 25-year-old from Nigeria, 20-year-old from Nigeria. I want to see an 18-year-old from Nigeria break world record with an amazing product. That's where my mind is at right now, and that's what I want to support for the rest of my life right now.
Okay,
That's what
great.
I'm into.
Let me read a few comments so that we don't have a backlog. Um, again, okay, Jessica said we should create a marketplace, finding game developers in Nigeria, such as myself. It really gets me excited. The Nigerian gaming community took it, said, I hate that word politics. Stop bringing politics into esports. So there are already major esports organizations in Nigeria. All we need is for collaborations of these organizations. It is as simple as saying yes to ready existing proposals. And let me read from Endgame. Said, as Africans, we need to learn to fail forward because for each time you fail, you have learned how not to fail. And I guess that's to buttress what Busaman said. Um, Shah said it's small mindedness in the African space. They would rather be 100% holders in a 100K company than a 10% holder in a 10 million company. Collaborations in itself is an innovation. I guess that is agreeing with what
Yeah.
Shea said. Jessica said, sad some Africans don't see getting into the game development a big thing. Some people still see what we do as just playing. Okay.
Sorry. On that one, right? Can you? I'll share with you a chart that shows that everything that Hollywood makes in an entire year can be fit 3 times into what the game development community makes in a year, right? The top grossing movies, Avatar, Endgame, maybe make about 2.7 billion, right? The top grossing games make tens of billions, right? 90 billion. So gaming is maybe gaming is trying to hide the amount of money it's making, making people not think it's serious. But the money that's coming out of gaming globally is 3 times Hollywood, almost 4 times what the music industry makes globally. So definitely not play in terms of money.
Yeah.
So how do we educate? That means it's an education thing for Nigerian Africans because once you start, like Jessica said, except your parents are the new generation parents or their mind is open, as a gamer, as a game developer, they'll start asking you, you're not bringing in money. Your mate is when he start, he's going to work on a Monday morning. And if they are not seeing, to them, they may not be seeing progress. You might be making progress with collaborations and you are, putting your team together to build, a game and they are not seeing anything. So that I think there also needs to be that education from the top to the bottom, the younger
the best
generation.
the best education is success, right? So our parents didn't want people to become footballers and all those kinds of things, and even artists, right? But now once your kid is rapping in one sort of way, you start looking at or just kicking the ball one sort of way. Okay, Arsenal Junior Club or something. So because they've seen, I mean, to be honest, parents want the best for their kids, right? And they've seen parts in ways where they failed, where they could have taken opportunities, or where fear and all this. I mean, a lot of times the best parents want the best for their kids, so they're going to try and steer you away from things that from their own past experiences feel like they've seen other people go down and not. Now Bossman can speak more towards this, where it's like, okay, you've been in gaming all this time, right? And then you're like, you know what, I need to make money, right? So there's also that place where you're saying sometimes it's you can do multiple things. It doesn't just have to be your only, the dying artist kind of thing, right? Where it's like, my craft, no matter what, right? There is something good in being able to do that. And even companies like Amazon right? People laughed at him like early 2000s, and they thought Amazon was going to fail, they many times actually. So sticking to your gun, is also very important. Um, but yeah, I would say that success, once we have one or two African based people who've come out of gaming, those things will fade. But stick to your guns, stick to the community. If you need to get a job on the side, do it, but don't forget the passion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So let's jump right into the Africa Comic Cage. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly because I know Cher pronounced it a different way, and I was like, am I pronouncing it?
I was I was
Yeah.
wondering as well. I add a little bit of my weird accent to it. Sorry.
Okay. So, run us through it. It's an event coming up that starts on Monday. What should people be expecting?
Should I go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the reasons why I'm part of the Africa Communicate, right, is there's that layer of talent, right, that needs to be brought together to build higher quality gaming. Everything we've spoken about, whether it's the gaps of doing business, of we don't come together, all these different things, right? They're things that happen to most industries. Every industries went through these same things, right? But the key thing is that once you start pushing out high quality content that is monetizable, you start breaking through those barriers because people um, can't unsee how good it is, right? So how do we come together to build better games? It's all about the talent and the teams that can come from that. So the Gameathon, right, is I believe next weekend, 2 days of pure hacking, and it's not just developers, right? It's the artists that go into that. It's the voiceover artists that make you excited. When you see the animation next to it, it's the sound. It's the all these different people coming together, right? That make a higher quality game, right? Um, so that's pretty exciting. But then from Monday, there's going to be global speakers. There's a whole schedule each day of multiple speakers from across the world who will be sharing knowledge on game development, on intercultural game development, story writing, all sorts of things that don't necessarily just have to fit within the mold of development. So I would say, even beyond the community of people who are developers, right? This is something that cuts across different kinds of people. So I would say register, go on the site, register, be part of it, jump into the knowledge sessions, and then join a team for a weekend. Yeah, that lots to look forward to.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Bosaman, your session, what should we expect?
Mm. I realized I'm just there to support and mentor the people that will be coming for the program, the next
As
generation or anybody else interested.
as a boss
So
man.
no, no, it's not boss man, it's boss man. Impact. I'm just trying to make impact. So I'm just trying to make impact. That's what my company is. Just trying to make impact by like impacting the next generation. So I show support when I see these things, and I that's my best. And I realized something about learning because I have friends that will say, Uche, please teach me how you do this in Unity. And I'll be like, the tutorials on YouTube. And I'll be like, no, I don't know what I watch. I don't know what that white guy is saying. He's speaking English. I don't get what he's saying. And I realized they're not localizing these tutorials for people like for how our systems, how people understand stuff in Africa. Sometimes the best talents I have seen, there's a guy called Lukman. I met him, I think in Ajegunle or somewhere. He's one of the best programmers I have ever met. I mean, from Nigeria to Ghana. He is amazing, self-taught. And if you're speaking big
Wow.
English, he's just watching you. If you're speaking big English, he's just watching you. If you break it down in Pidgin English, he can program anything you describe to him in Pidgin English, English, Yoruba language. He understands it,
Oh
programming
my
as if it
God.
is his
Oh
language.
wow.
So you understand, but initially he would tell you, "Oh, I don't get this thing. Can you break down what this guy is saying to me?" And I've had people even in Canada, friends in Canada, like, which I watched a tutorial Unity brought out. What are they saying? And these guys are smart. They don't like get dumb. They're smart people, but sometimes they want you to break it down in a way they get it. People learn differently. So I've decided to say I'm going to be breaking down tutorials in locally, not like speaking Igbo or Yoruba, but like breaking it down locally, one on one. Just this ordinary guy here telling you this is how I learned it. and hoping that other people can pick it up more, combine what I've said with what is. So I think that's what I'm trying to bring to that particular event. I'm going to go up to people that I'm mentoring and say, you know what, don't take all the big grammar of programming or design or Unity. Take it down to basic level. Let's speak pidgin English. What is the problem? What are you trying to solve?
What are you trying to
Let's
say?
what are you trying to do? This is what I think. Yeah, exactly. Let's take away that whole, this guy is mentoring us. He's probably no, no, no. Let's break it down as Nigerians. What's the problem? What are you trying to solve? And I think we need that in the industry where what you know shouldn't be this heavy thing that makes everybody run away from you.
Hmm.
That's one of my biggest. That's one thing I'm trying to solve to make this knowledge easily accessible, make it friendly. When I was at MEST, I keep bringing back MEST because I went to school. I went to secondary school, university, but I never learned anything until I went to MEST. I was this guy that never got school. So MEST took 1 year to fix everything I've tried to learn from primary school, secondary school to university. I don't know how they did that, but I realized something there that the day one of Zuckerberg's staffs came to the school there, we could walk up to him. There's this time in Nigeria where you meet a white guy. A white guy is rare to find. Like you meet a white guy and you can't talk anymore. I don't know. Like this, I don't know if it happens to me or it happened to me. So you meet white people and you can't talk anymore. You meet this people can speak. You meet someone like Sheye and even you can't talk anymore because you hear this big grammar and you're afraid to talk because you might mess up. The accent is so you may just say something wrong, but you're trying to match up the accent and you mess up.
Don't let it
And
fool you,
because
man.
so
Don't let it fool you.
but the way we grow up initially, we that's just the first impression you get. And that thing as like they killed that for me in MEST. We have to pitch in front of name it, the VC, the owner of the what they call this Silicon Valley Bank, name it different. We met people that on normal day I will only see on the online, but we have to pitch them, and they kill that fear. These people you can walk and they're so humble. You can walk up to them and they'll be like, "Wait, what are you trying to say? Let's break it down to normal English." He will come and have lunch with you. We'll talk, and I realized that knowledge people, everybody is smart. You just have to break it down in a way that they understand it. And I focus. That's why I said I focus on educating right now. I'm trying to get a degree in education so I can teach officially because teaching is my new passion now, and I really want people to get things, no matter how difficult it is for you. So that's where I realize I'm trying to bring that learning, that my ability to teach or share information in most basic format to this event, African Comic Con. I hope that everybody else leaves that place. Even if you can make or win something, you learn something, you grow. So that's what I'm bringing to the table for African Comic Con. And I think that's why they reached out to me, because
Okay.
I'm not the best
Okay.
at it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so as we round up, let me just read a few more comments. Omonla 360 said more awareness should be created in Nigeria concerning gaming and game development. A lot of people don't know what this is all about. Well, Omonla, that is why we do have the Africa Comicade that starts on Monday. So you could go ahead and register, and you'd hear a lot of things that you do not know, a lot of knowledge. Busaman will be there, Olusha will also be there speaking and impacting a lot of wisdom about the industry. So I would advise you register. Also, someone else said, let me pull that up so I don't miss anyone. Okay, so Belarus said yes to influencer promotion at least for a bit. Okay, I think it was a follow-up to Omanla's comment, and he said the influencer personnel in gaming industry should promote more gaming content. Hmm. That is an interesting question. As we round up, let me ask you this: the time it took the Nollywood industry and the music industry, if it took them X amount of years, do you think the gaming industry, in terms of gamers, esports, the creatives, the game developers, do you think it's going to take the same number of years, the same amount of time, more or less, to actually get it right? Or no, I won't say get it right now. International recognition. Like, shall I give an example? Like now, you go on Netflix, you just want to watch Nollywood movies. You go to the club or you go to parties. That recognition. Do you think our ecosystem is going to take less, the same time, or more to achieve that greatness?
I think it'll take a shorter time, but probably that's not necessarily true. The reason I say that is because this gaming thing has been going for a long time, even without us seeing some of those players, right? So, if we say like in the next 2 years, right, some really big game out of Africa becomes like the hit everybody's talking about globally, right? We would say, oh, it's an overnight success, but no, this thing has been going on. I mean, I'm sure for the last 15 years in terms of African people trying to, break in and building the foundation. So, I would say that at least from this point now, there's more access to the tools that people need. I would say that some of those the access is all about also about affordability, right? So there's more that people can use to build higher quality games that can potentially go on get featured on an Apple store, on a Google store. Who right now are actually looking for local good African content, right? Um, that can also go on like a game loft, that can go on a humble games, right, and get international recognition. One thing that you see is that games usually don't do they do great in your own country, but then it's outside of your own country, even in Asia, in Europe, that you would see people really taking up some of our African games, right? Because some of these places have similar cultures, right? An aboki or a motorcycle in Nigeria, you have the equivalent in Vietnam or in Indonesia, right? You have some of those kinds of thoughts in other places. So, gaming is global, which is a curse and a blessing, because your game is right next to a international game that took 50 million to create, right, within an app store. But then once we can put up the quality, I think that the potential for us to stand out internationally, that can happen quite quickly.
Okay, thank you for that, Busaman. What do you think? Less, same
Uh,
time, or more?
I think less time, like what he said, because I realized that, like he said, more access this time to the people, for anybody to ask to build something on the same level of high quality for global standards. And then I realized, and then one more thing, I asked people, because of more access now, there is now the issue that we didn't have at that time, knowledge. People think they feel because you're a programmer, you're making games, you don't need to learn history. If you're trying to make local content that you're going to push globally, you need to understand that particular content very well. If it's about history, you need to learn that stuff. You need to read that book. You need to understand, because God of War is about Greek mythology, and for you
Mm-hmm.
to fix Greek mythology in a way that you change the story and put a player in the middle of that whole mythology in a way that we didn't even know we're learning, that means the guy has read that thing back and forth. That means we also need to get in touch with our history, local history content, from Yoruba history to Benin history. And if you check most programmers, they don't know those stuffs. And you're trying to make a game, you don't know any of those stuff. So what's the core of your game? Where is it coming from? Which history? You ask most people why they're making games abroad, and they'll tell you where they draw it from. I told you about this new game, Black Myth, made by an Asian company, very small company. I think there must be like 10 people or less. It's about this, their great Monkey King and their history of the Chinese culture. You can see their rich culture just showing all over the whole game. Everything was from their whole mythology. And that means he understands his mythology to the core. He knows his history very well. We push our history. Our history is not important to us. I won't lie to you. Most of the modern people. So I'd like to bring in our history classes to these kids I'm teaching games, and make them go and read about, Yas Antoine from Ghana. I made them read about Amina from Kano. I made them read about these things. Kano has a very rich culture. Like, because I don't know, the North has been watered down to these negative things we hear, but Kano has a beautiful culture because I've been scanning their artifacts, and I've learned so much about their culture that I didn't even know. Not only have such a rich culture that we could make an amazing game out of and stuff. So I think knowledge is part of it, learning is part of it, and access is going to make that knowledge smoother. And that by that way, I feel like the next generation is going to practice things faster than we did with our support. You
Ca-
know,
ca- Can I
I,
ca- can I just add quickly to what you just said? I would say that people who take part in this gameathon, please, 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 don't be scared to, especially because this is also maybe not. It doesn't have to be commercial, right? So you can actually do
yeah,
take some risks, right? Don't be scared to dive into, as Bosman said, cultural characters that are lesser known, right? The reason why we don't necessarily like our history is because it's not being celebrated on the platforms that we're used to getting our to worshiping in a way. So you're not seeing a Captain America I mean, sorry, you're not seeing a Captain Nigeria, you're seeing a Captain America. So when you see, anything around there, you're like, whoa, man, Endgame or this or that. It's been celebrated on platforms that we usually get our culture and pop culture and all these things from. So don't be scared to go back to places that are not there's not as much light on. Pick out of that.
Yeah.
Just make sure the quality is high enough that when people pick it up, they're like, you know what? I don't mind because the game level design is tight. The power ups are tight. The level design is tight. This is fun. And then okay, what's this history thing? And then they start taking in the history, because that's how we take in the history of some of the content and games and movies and music that we know nothing about, because it's so tight. Then we start listening beyond the tightness into what it's actually saying, and then that now becomes part of us. So all of these Nigerian and African characters that are not known can then by osmosis come into the popular or global consciousness by just the quality being high enough for people, the game ability, the playability, the likability, just being good enough that people are like, you know what, let me find out more about what this history is saying.
Like someone has said, very insightful. I have always been a champion for anything African, because stakeholders were having this conversation. FIFA, for example, keeps excluding Africa in their e-tournaments. And the conversation came up as to why don't the game developers actually create a football game that would have just African countries and African clubs, and then we would all play it. We don't have to disturb ourselves about being accepted by FIFA or accepted by Konami in PAS. We'll play. If you want to play, you use Enyimba to play. You don't have to disturb yourself about, oh, I need to play Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot make that game like a FIFA or PS.
Of course not.
If
Of
you
course
make it
not.
the same, even if you made it the same quality as those games, nobody will play it. Because what else are you giving me? If you give me another Facebook, right? I don't need a Nigerian
And
Facebook. I already
true.
have Facebook, right? Even if it's at the same quality, right? But what else are you putting on top that now makes that game something that even a Brazilian will pick it up? Because I don't care, it's all Aimba and all these clubs I don't know, but this is just something new. You have to put something new. Don't just give me the same of what is out there, right? Yeah, that's what I would say
Oh yeah, I agree with
on
you.
that.
Yeah, to spice it up, like Bosaman said, you get the voiceovers of how the commentators in Nigeria talk during game. You put that in, so it's kind of going to be more comical when you're playing your game. So yes, you can't copy and paste. You have to.
Yeah.
There has to be culture tied to it. Bosaman, you wanted to
Yeah.
say add something to this?
Yeah. And just because your culture is local to you doesn't mean you're the only one celebrating that culture. Like when we made our first game, Babalao, that was my first game. We were surprised we were not getting enough players from Nigeria, but we got over 600 players from Mexico and Portuguese. Then we realized that they too share the Yoruba culture. They worship the same gods. They had Babalawos today. And we
Mm,
didn't know until I made my game. I didn't bother. I just wanted to make a Babalawo game. And I connected to this culture, separate people. Even till today, my Facebook page, people still holler at me. They think I'm a real ritualist. They say I need help on the Babalawo page. It's weird. Like the thing is alive. Even years after I've taken down the game, they're like trying to say Babalawo. They share. They keep sending. I'm like, it's a game. It is not like it's just a game. It wasn't. Oh my god! Like so, and people from Mexico, Brazil, Yoruba communities in London were reaching out, playing this game. So, just because your culture is local to you, a Benin culture, you might be surprised which other culture has something similar. It might be close to a Mayan culture, and somebody just digs it from Mexico or from Brazil, from America, and says, let's collaborate with you. So don't be afraid to dig deep into your roots and then try to make a global standard. Like Chair said, it doesn't mean because it's local, it must now be shabby quality. Try to bring global quality to it with your local history, and you probably might hit gold.
Okay, that's true. Let me quickly read a few more comments. Omala said, "I believe if we create a synergy and unite everything, everything will fall through easily." And talking about those games you just mentioned, Shaya, there was a question thrown at you. Let's see. Okay, so when we started talking about the local African football game, Sid said, like an AFCON video game, which makes sense. Then she said, I wonder about the licensing issues. So for games like
Exactly what I
that,
was gonna say.
how would that work?
Is that a question? I mean, licensing issues. I would say, someone said that they hate politics. They hate hearing the word politics. Unfortunately, whenever I try to do ecosystem building type activities, you know, um, I try to stay clear a bit of governmental type stuff. Um, I just feel like getting those licensing issues and yeah, I don't know how I would go about it. I would obviously connect with AFCON, build enough pitch to let them see the value. I mean, if you put it the right way, the right people at the right time can connect to it to see that this is something that we need to do. Esports is huge right now. It's getting bigger than some of the actual real life, versions. You find that Formula One, right? Formula One's esports game, right? If you're good at that, they will even invite you to the junior level of Formula One, right? Some of the esports players are and teams are earning as much as the real sports themselves. So, potentially that could be a pitch to AFCON and others. But then for me, it's like, I don't know. I stay clear of anything to do with all the trying to, behind the scenes, somebody comes and tries to brown paper bag money, this, that. But by God's
Brown
grace,
paper
you
bag.
could make the. I'll just say, go ahead and just build an African an African game, football game. You don't have to get the license first of all. Just make it super amazingly cool, and then people on the next version of it will say, look, can we make it about AFCON or make it about.
Yeah, I think just to add to what you said, I think the whole FIFA and the PES game, if if one or the other gets the licensing from the team is still going to exist on the other game. So, for example, let's say um, FIFA gets the license from Manchester United, so they use Manchester United. PES would have that same team, but they'll call it another name because they don't have that license. They'll probably call it the Reds. So I think for that, that could also be a workaround. You don't have to use Kano Pillars or you don't have to use Melody Sundowns from South Africa. You can use something that relates to them and still make it cool and have it. But that's just me. Sid also said, also I think people should get more into modding games as well. I don't know if any of the football games accept custom content, but I can imagine it being more accessible to go that route. Quintus Gaming said, in the sports titles, if someone can come up with something closer to FIFA Street, but the street football standard in Nigeria, so that would be like Monkey Post that we grew
Mm-hmm.
up playing.
Yeah.
That's said. Sid said, like the lady who makes custom content for sim games rather than creating a whole new African sims. It's an option for paving our way using minimal resources.
Resources.
Okay, and they keep going back and forth. But that's all the time that we have. For all those watching and all those who are listening, the Africa Communicate starts today. It starts on Monday. I'm sorry. You can register on africacommunicate.org. That's ORG. Hopefully, we will see you there. We would have fantastic speakers like Olusheye and the support of Bossman. Although he's not going to speak, he said he's going to give us his support. It's going to be fun. So go ahead and register. You'll be able to not just listen to speakers, you'll be able to connect with other like minds, you'll be able to find opportunities to collaborate. So hopefully we will see you there. Shaya and Bossman, do you have any closing remarks for us?
I would say to the people, some of the people on the chat are influencers themselves in other industries. I'll say, please, their awareness is the most important thing, right? There's a developer somewhere who there's no way they would have heard about this particular YouTube chat that we're having now. Please post it on your handles, wherever people come, and just let people know, right? So that we can really build out this opportunity. That would be what I would say. Just as many platforms as can put this up, please, please do.
Okay, Busaman.
Yeah, all I can say is see you guys at the event. Please don't miss it because we'll be coming with all our experiences and we hope we want to share what we get out of all this while. So please come register and come over to African Communicate.
Okay, and from the Afro Gamer, we would also be in attendance. Thank you all for watching. Kindly, like, subscribe so you get notifications for any other episodes that we have coming up. And we hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.